Hello and welcome to the Skating Lesson Talks Gymnastics. I'm thrilled to welcome Olympian, NCAA champion, Cirque du Soleil performer, choreographer, yoga teacher, all-around badass, Stella Umeh. Stella, welcome back to the Skating Lesson.
What's up, homies? How are you guys doing? Thank you so much for having me, David.
How are you? I'm excited.
I'm good.
I mean, okay, so we're in the middle of the Olympics, and usually I only message you late at night, so I haven't gotten your take on Twisties and what is happening in the world. And I think it would be really fun to talk to you about this because you come from, a perspective where it's not all about the USA all the time. And you live outside of our bubble here. So I would love to get your perspective. First of all, talk to us about the Twisties. Okay, all of America.
Okay, so to put it in layman's terms, or to sort of kind of, not that anyone's dumb, but dumb it down for people that wouldn't necessarily be experiencing this. When you get the Twisties, it generally happens with twisting things. It's not so much that it's just going to be a straight rotation without a twisting element involved. It generally happens when you either do multiple twists at the same time, you've added twists, so you've learned a full twist and then you go to a double twist and then you're either doing a 2.5 and a triple. Once you upgrade and you keep getting more and you keep adding more twists, you get your kind of orientation and your sense of upside down when you're upside down kind of gets rocked. You just have a moment where you're like, hang on, wait, what am I doing? I can't figure out either to stop or to go, how many I've done. It's just something in your, it's not that it throws off your equilibrium. It's not a physical injury. It's sort of it becomes really heady. It becomes like a mind block or a mental block. So it can kind of be sort of like a mental thing that all of a sudden your brain is just incapable of deciphering one type of twist from another. And when I was doing, I have to be honest, I've never gotten full twisties because I didn't do multiple twists in one routine at the same time. So it was either that I did a 2.5 and then the rest were so different that I couldn't mix them up. I would do a back in full out, but that is a rotating and twisting. And then the other one is just a rotation with a straight twist. So it's kind of hard to mix them up. But once you start adding 2 rotations and then multiple twists, couple up on the first one, couple on the second one, it does become wait, what am I doing? So it's understandable that it's scary, super scary when you don't know where you are in the air. End of story. And you don't know why it's happening and you can't figure it out. All you want is to figure it out because it becomes a bit scary. And you don't ever, so every time you go, it's unpredictable.
So we saw Simone Biles doing it on a skill that she's done for years.
Yes.
Now, obviously, why mental blocks occur, I've read a million articles on it this week. It says it could be a focal thing. It says it could also be caused by anxiety. Do you think that underlying anxiety is likely what causes? Obviously, we're never going to know for sure, but it does seem like being in the Olympics to be a returning Olympic champion and being expected to win a ton of gold medals. Simone Biles is in every commercial in America. She's in every, she was in every newspaper for the last 2 years that she's had to sit with it. Really the last 5 years, but the last 2, intensely, 2 ramp ups to the Olympics. Yeah. I mean, is this almost like her brain was just done, just didn't want to, I mean, she made it very clear in articles that she was ready to be done.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack there. Now, from a perspective of a mental block while doing gymnastics, I find that when I actually had it, it is with skills that you've done a million times. It's usually with skills that you can do in your sleep. And that might be it, that because we no longer really think about that, they're so mechanically organized in our body that we can kind of just go and not be completely brainless, but not really have to focus that much on it. That's usually when it's as soon as you start thinking about it, it's when you're like, oh my God, I can't figure it out. And so I had this mental block issue on a release on bar. So reverse hex to catch up. And I've been doing catch up since I was 11 years old. And I got to university. So this happened 15 years into my career that I was like, oh my God, I can't figure out how to let go. wouldn't let go, couldn't figure out the mechanics of the skill. So it didn't matter how many times I'd done it, but it was because I'd done it so many times that I no longer thought about the mechanics of the skill. And then I had a moment where I was like, oh wait, and I thought about it, and that's what screwed me up. So the thinking about it is what threw me off. And now when I think about it, I couldn't figure it out. So in that respect, I completely understand where Simone Biles is coming from. And when I had my brain block on my release skill, I was sick. There were things going on in my life. My brain was just fogged up with other things. And the one place I didn't really have to think was the gym. And then the moment I started thinking was the moment it went sideways. So perhaps, yeah, like stress and the pressure and all of the additional stuff definitely contributed to like having a brain fart. I mean, let's be honest, that's what it is. It's a brain fart in gymnastics. And it has now led to a second guessing of her skills, herself, not knowing whether she's coming or going, and just being afraid to try. And it's the kind of thing that you kind of need, your home, and to like break it down and to go through step by step to try and flesh out. You basically have to relearn stuff. She doesn't have the time to relearn it. Now it's just a question of, was she having these issues before she got there? Were they brand new? Did it just happen while she was at the games? She's been under a lot of pressure, as you say, for, a good solid 2 years ramping up. But for a good 5 years, there's been a lot of focus on her. Now, my take on Simone in terms of where she sits in the world of gymnastics, she's a class of her own. She's literally by herself. There was no one challenging her for years. And it still has carried over into Olympics. Like, she was at World Championships and was still the world champion after falling twice. So there wasn't any pressure from another athlete. I actually think a lot of pressure has come from what's with herself, like Simone battling Simone kind of thing, and not necessarily the outside world, yes, adding to it. But I think there's a big Simone versus Simone battle, more so than external, in my opinion.
So I was talking to one person, and they were saying that under Marta, one thing that she would do in her staff is that they would take out any skill that wasn't 100% or 95% that all the girls would do. And that's one of the reasons for the consistency. It wasn't just some magic that she had, that she would take skills out. And that's one of those reasons why we don't see the gymnasts being as consistent now as they were before. But you also see Simone doing these crazier skills that she would have never been allowed to compete before. Do you think that adds to the kind of stress because she's not on autopilot? I mean, do you think it's, I guess, what's your take on that?
So this is an interesting question. And I can't speak for another athlete, but from my perspective as an Olympian, as someone who has gone through many things and has reached the same level of international elitism, right, as the next Olympian, we've all achieved the same thing. That within the cycle, the way that my coach, we worked my lead up to Olympics, you kind of basically learn everything to a certain extent, and then you stop learning new things. There's a point in your training, if the Olympics and Worlds and all of that is your focus, there's a point in your training when you stop learning new things, and then you just work on perfecting what you can do, and like getting it higher, getting more amplitude, drilling landings, and the execution of things becomes the main important thing, and keeping your body healthy and safe, keeping you away from pain. That's what the focus becomes. So I would play things like I did Yurchenko double back for warm up. I would play it, but I would never compete it because we had stopped. There was a point in my career where we'd stopped learning new things, and it was just to focus on perfecting what I was already doing, because my code or the amount of skills that I was required to do, I was at a 10. I was start value of 10. So I didn't need to get more to be more than a 10. Open-ending scoring has really changed the face of it, because it forces you, it doesn't really force you, but there's this impetus to like, oh, let's do more. But when you have a cap, when it's like, you can't go higher than a 10. So if you start out at a 10, just do what you need to do to get a 10, right? You don't need to do extra, because then that just puts you in a position of like, getting further away from a 10. So with open-ended, it's just like, do whatever you want. And I think in that, it causes this, race for the big skills, but do you ever really perfect anything? Do you ever really stop? And I'm not saying you stop the journey. No, it's a dynamic process. But once you've learned what you need to learn, now it becomes a full mental game. It's maintaining that, being able to stay where you in the place that you've achieved, like once you hit number one, the biggest challenge is to stay there. And it generally is because of your brain and how you train and how you can be economic with your body, with your breath, with your skills. Like, you know what I mean? It becomes a different game.
Yeah. We do see Simone go out of bounds more. That was a big thing during, is that NBC calling her the GOAT ever since, I guess, about 2019, that they really have labeled Simone the GOAT, the greatest of all time. She could be flying out of bounds and they're like, she has too much power. She is just the greatest of all time. But anytime she does anything as an athlete, it just gets layered and layered. I mean, Twitter was putting a GOAT emoji on, and obviously she has to live with that. And then she names her own tour, the GOAT tour. They put on the lead. It has to be suffocating at some point.
But is it suffocating for who? Who's it suffocating for? Like, we can't all, the onus, it's a shared responsibility. It isn't just the media or the public or fans or the team or not the team or the athlete and not the athlete. Like, everybody plays a role in the way that things play out. So like if I were looking at something, I'm also Canadian. I just have to preface that by saying our approach would be very different. So like, let's take for example, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, who literally is the greatest of all time hockey player across the board and has been like that for as long as I've ever known him, for as many decades as I've ever been around and seen him. And yet he would never call himself that. He never called himself that. No one else ever called himself that. Like, he was just phenomenal, amazing, like to look at, to be revered, but he always found ways to like keep challenging himself within his consistency, right? And so I think that once maybe there's a danger in starting to like, I don't know, get on board with press things and like making it a thing rather than just it be over there, but it's not a distraction for me over here because I have to keep my mind focused on the bigger picture. She's doing some really hard and dangerous things. And there is no time, there's no space, in my opinion. There shouldn't be any space for anything else, right? And if she wants more space because she's so capable, then she can easily dial things back and not do a triple double. She doesn't have to do a triple double. She's capable 100%, but she doesn't always have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the burnout signs were really apparent because she always had a spark and a charisma when she performed, and it's not been in her eye as much this year. She did look very excited when she did her vault for the
double pike. Yeah.
But outside of that, we have not seen her have the same joy competing.
Yeah.
We saw her kind of partying on Instagram a lot within the last 100 days. I mean, I say a lot for, a gymnast that we never see this, but right before Olympics, when you're going to be the star, it just seemed jarring. They asked her the other night in a Q&A, what would you change about the world right before she competed? And she said, that people would be kinder and that alcohol would stop giving me the spins. It was just shocking to see like someone that's being celebrated as America's sweetheart say this. Not that like I didn't have these thoughts at 24, but you're like, wait a second, like, are you like playing along, or is this like a rebellion to what is going on about like the circus around you, right?
Yeah. I mean, that lends maybe to the broader question. Was her heart, her mind, her body and soul really into competing in this Olympic Games? And I think that's a narrative that no one's actually really talking about because it is the more difficult and touchier one, in my opinion. As an Olympian, I had a moment too where I was like, I don't know, I made the team and all of a sudden I found a cocktail in my hand. It's completely underage, but found a cocktail in my hand. And leading up to the Olympics, I was partying. I don't know why. It was like, Stella, pull your shit together. But once I got got close enough to it, I was like, come on, you can't do this. But I didn't get so not that she's out of control by any stretch of the imagination, no. But I was still not I wasn't ready to give up. Like I was still very in it. That was my big shot. That was my Olympic Games. So there wasn't like the life hadn't been sucked out of me yet, you know? Finishing my career going into Commonwealth Games, like it could have gone that direction, but I still never lost my fire. I never lost the fire. And then once I said to myself, this will be my last meet, I made it my last meet. And I was fine with that. And I didn't say, oh, stick around. Because there was a request from Canadian Gymnastics and quite a few people, my coach, my sister, like quite a few people around me in my tribe, in my circle, after 92. And then I retired from international competition in 94. They're like, please, Stella, can you just stay for 2 more years? Just stay for 96, stay for the 96 cycle. And I was like, no, I'm done. I don't want to. And so because I said, I don't want to, it could have gone either way, right? I could have been like, no, I don't want to, and then forced myself to do it. And then been horrendously upset for the last 2 years of my career, or made the decision on my own, I'm done. And not tried to please anyone. I don't need to please. Gymnastics is too scary. Gymnastics is too dangerous to be doing it for somebody else. If your head, heart, if your mind, body, and soul is not involved in the game, you shouldn't be doing gymnastics. Not at such a high level. It's too dangerous.
It's interesting because she has a documentary on Facebook you can watch when she finds out that the Olympics are postponed, and her first thing is I quit. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
It just like is so. You know, hindsight, it's 2020, right? So you can see that maybe, you know, sitting with us for an extra year just really.
Yeah, I 100% believe that this year was not, the extra year was not within her favor. It worked in favor of other athletes like Jordan Childs. It definitely worked in her favor. She was able to like, change gyms and like get remotivated. And because she was on her way out before that, right? And then it was like, we have an extra year. And she's like, oh, let's switch it up. And then she went and trained with Simone. So like, there's two apples, like there's two sides of that opportunity or occasion where you see someone who's like, yeah, I love this extra year. And someone's like, oh my God, this extra year is going to kill me. And in gymnastics, I honestly, strongly believe if the first instinct you have, that gut feeling is, nah, you need to go with that. It's too dangerous to not. It's too dangerous to not, because there will be self-doubt. There will be lack of focus. There will be a wishing that it's done, and it jumbles it. It makes it dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw her at trials just exhibiting a lot of signs. You know, she said she wanted to die after one event, then she said the next, you know, that she was, she was crying, and you see like just like the eye rolls and things. Here, it just seems like the pressure was really so palpable and had to be distracting to the other teammates. They didn't seem surprised when she pulled away. So
no, yeah, I agree.
There was an article that she had some sort of
baby. Go on.
Some sort of you know, it seemed like, you know, the pressure had gotten to her at the hotel. She said that she was shaking and crying. It's, you know, who knows how much of a scene it was, but what do you make of Tom not pulling her before that? Or did everyone just be like, oh, you'll be fine, these twisties, you'll just, like, that's what I want to know. The journalist, you know, major in me wants to be like, okay, at what point did you start struggling in practice? What happened in the days before? What happened in the morning before, in the afternoon? And how could this have been?
I mean, I fully 100% agree with you on that assessment and that question. This is not a new conversation, and I've been having it for the last 3 or 4 days. Definitely different generation, different strokes for different folks, come from different places. There are 3 things, in my opinion, at Olympic Games as an athlete. You either show up and shut up, push that shit down, or you bomb. You show up on every event and it just doesn't work. You bomb or you don't go at all. Like, those are literally the 3 choices. I don't see how one of the choices is being really struggling in a very dangerous sport and showing up and then having a fallout. It's not worth it. Her safety, her sanity, her freedom, everything that she is and wants to be is way more important than making people happy. And so, yeah, if this is the way that she was feeling, if the first instinct was, fuck, I want to quit, after hearing there was an extra year, it should have been that. You can't force someone to do another 12 months. Well, that's not true, because I don't think she was forced. I have no idea how it all played out, but there's an element of her forcing herself to do it because her gut instinct was, no, I want out. But she was like, it's okay, I'll be cool. But could she not have dialed her skills back? Was that not an option for her? Okay, I'm gonna stay, but let's not do these massive things. You know, let's dial it back. Let's not play it safe, but oh my God, she's got a cachet, she's got like a bag of tricks, like literally a bag of tricks that she can like pull out and pick from and like rearrange and play with. That could that have made it more interesting for her? Who knows? Maybe she doesn't find the easier skills for her interesting enough to stay. I don't know.
Yeah, and it was like watching a bubble burst, not just her own career, but American gymnastics and everything that's been going on. And they've been on this, you know, dynamic story ride and the train, and it was Russia's opportunity to gain. What was it like you watching? Because obviously when you competed, the Soviet Union was in that same position where they were winning every single competition.
Yeah.
But did it make the sport more interesting? Because I find that at the Olympics, I'm now more into, who's going to win? Because coming in, everyone just, if you didn't say that Simone was going to win 5 medals, you were on something, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
I think the momentum, let's call it momentum, the momentum as of late has literally taken the air out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And the events that played out actually made it where there was now an opportunity. People were like, oh shit, we can go for 3 medals. There's 3 medals in play now. You know, it's not just 2. And if you look at the pool of gymnasts, they were all actually quite close to each other in terms of skill. That was kind of anyone's game, right? Which made it all of a sudden more interesting. Gymnastics for me, I have to be honest, I haven't watched gymnastics for a while because I was like, I just don't find this interesting. When it's just all one person's game or 2 people's game or one country's game and it's just dominated by one type of gymnast, I'm like, where's the diversity? Where's the artistry? And I miss the artistic aspect of gymnastics. And I am 100%, I'm old school. I'm from the land of the 10-0. I'm also from the land of compulsories. That was the opportunity to separate the best gymnasts when we were all on a level, equal playing field, when we all had to do compulsories. And then it was like, okay, then let's see who is the best gymnast. Then optionals was like a treat, right? Compulsories was kind of where the meat was. So you're like, okay, yeah, that's the best. And then optionals was like, let's see these blow this out of the water. And it was so much, I found it much more fun, much more exciting. You could try bigger tricks. And also because there was a cap in scoring, so you could try bigger tricks because there was it was an easier, not an easier opportunity, but there was a greater opportunity. There was more diversity of tricks that you could put together different compositions and still meet a 10-0 start value. So yeah, by capping it off, the pool of tricks now becomes bigger. But by leaving it open, you what?
I miss floor. I feel like we used to have this event called floor exercise. It used to be really fun. You know, I was the little gay kid doing all the choreography at home, right? All the nuanced stuff that we don't see anymore. We did see a little bit with Melnikova, slight touches with Suni Lee, but it's like hints of what used to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And
I mean, oh yeah, go on.
It feels like there's no going back now that we went open-ended, but
I know, which is a shame.
Artistry production is not enough to be incentive for this.
I agree. So like, I think that's why, if you notice, like if you put college gymnastics and international gymnastics alongside one another, college gymnastics has really skyrocketed and the interest in gymnastics has flown through the roof. And I think it's because you can still dance on floor. Like you can still be really creative and like show stuff and like do things because there's a cap. It's still the 10-0 system. Yeah, you have to do particular skills and you have to meet requirements, but there's still an opportunity to be creative and different because here is the box, but here's the bag of tricks, right? And you're not just trying to like load trick on top of load trick on top of load trick on top of load trick, just so you can get a difficulty score and then meet an execution score, but who really cares about the execution score? You know what I mean? So it's and I think that's why not very exciting, and everybody's doing the same things.
Yeah,
Everybody's doing the same skills.
On our live show, we were watching NCAA floor routines after, and people couldn't be like at how crowd appealing the floor routines were and how different everyone was from each other, and yet entertaining and doing difficult tricks. It was, very interesting to see after we were watching the all around to put that on. And I think people, their eyes were opened, to that it could be really enjoyable. Now, a lot of figure skaters message me this question all the time, and you're gonna have to defend it or rant. And we frequently get, what's going on with the arm moves on the beam? The beam doesn't really have the flow anymore that it used to have.
Yeah.
And people are very perturbed by balance beam choreography that just seems haphazard and strange. Yeah. What is your take on?
So I think it's definitely because of the requirements that you're forced to with an open ending scoring system to like, you have to pack in like tricks and leaps and jumps and turns. So this is just to get you there. Like it's just like a small commercial break. You do like a sheep jump, you land and then you go tuck, tuck. Switch ring, you land, you go tuck, tuck. And like it's just to propel you from one move to the next. And it's like half the time I can't even really tell what it is, because it literally is like a focused athlete looking straight down at the beam and her arms are just moving.
Yeah. Without
any intention behind it.
See, everyone used to have their own style, so the routine flowed from beginning to end. Which is lovely. So. Yeah. And now I just feel like everybody either moves really fast or really slow. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was a fast beam worker. Sometimes I would watch my beam and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cringeworthy, because I was like, Stella, slow down and take a breath. It never felt like that, but I'd look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm kind of quick. But yeah, that was my thing. That was my jam. I was known as like the power athlete, the one that was quick and fiery and but really good lines, and you know what I mean? But I was coached by Russian and Ukrainian coaches, and I took ballet for 8 years. And then we had ballet training while we were still doing gymnastics. So lines and the artistry of the sport were a huge thing, and it was a huge focus. Even on those throwaway moments on beam, they still had to be fully executed with an entire body. Like we would do an entire line of complex of just body waves, like just walk across the beam and just do body waves, just to make sure that it's still in your body. There's some juice, there's some fire. You know what I mean? They can't figure out. So I'm fully doing the floor routine right now. They can't figure out how to quantify it. So it's all gone away, right? Yeah. Now, what do you make of the gymnasts? Now that we saw, Russia won the team event, we saw obviously a new slate podium of athletes in the all around. Yeah. Who stood out to you? Who'd you really like? Oh, well, 100%. My little Brazilian gymnast. Come on. Okay. Yeah. Rebecca. Oh wait, did you only want me to talk about the Russian team or just in general? I want you to talk in general. Yeah. Andrade, right? Am I saying her name right? Andrade. Yeah. Okay. Beautiful Brazilian, caliente. Yeah, she's got a nice mixture and a marriage of power and elegance. I actually think she's quite an elegant gymnast for as powerful as she is. Beautiful lines, and she keeps her legs together on bars. There's this thing now, which I don't think judges can see, which drives me crazy. I know they know. But everybody does like this, I call it the sickle foot and the hammer toe. Everybody thinks that if the toes are together, the legs are together. Nah. So on pack saltos and salto shaposhnikovas and stuff like that, everybody's got legs that are like this, but on the side, they look like they're together. And it drives me absolutely mental that I'm like, how are you that level and your legs are apart? It drives me crazy. Legs, bad feet, drives me crazy. And those things are not like forced on kids, except if you look at the Russian girls. Like the Russian program, I think, has never changed. It's been a program that has always stayed exactly the same. They definitely have style, and they have never veered from it. You can tell a Russian line, you can tell a Russian execution. Their toes are like talons, like claws, like hooks. Their lines are, you can tell they're all like classically ballet trained. So there's a definite
it's obvious. And I missed the Chinese style. Mm-hmm. It's like they were the great beam workers, and it's because of their connectivity and their dance and the way that they float. But because it's not like revered anymore, their biggest selling point was sort of removed from gymnastics for the Chinese kids. So yes, little Brazilian gymnast is my number one fave, because I think she reminds me of old school gym, with that extra, you've got an amazing floor and that shit's bouncy, and you've got a table vault, which I wish I could have played on, that she can also couple it with power. So she's my favorite standout. You what?
Vault had both power and an elegance to it, with her, the way that her her core rose off that horse, and how she
she was like blocks, like, see me, okay, I'm a twist, right? She very much was like that breath. And I found that with all of her events. She took her time to fly through her skills. So it was beautiful to watch. Who else was a standout for me? I have to actually think about this.
I really liked Melnikova, obviously, from Russia, who went on to the all-around. All of the Russians, I mean, their bar rotation in prelims was an absolute clinic, in the team finals as well. But watching them go up one after another. And the Chinese were on beam at that time and were doing incredibly well. And doing incredibly well, and amazing the way that they can actually do skills. But the flow of the routines of yesteryear was not the same. It was
super choppy, because it was just skill on top of skill on top of skill.
What they were doing were incredible.
Incredible.
And the way that they were doing them was incredible.
Incredible. But the flow of it, so it made it just like
the way that they land on the beam and can absorb and do these connections, unbelievable. So.
Unbelievable. I know, their feet just like, and it's amazing. It's like a Chinese, I don't understand it. It's phenomenal. Yeah, they're notorious for it.
And the British team getting the bronze medal, I really like the Gadirova twins, who seem to have huge futures in the sport. And they also they have a mix of the power, the execution, and some elegance, both of them, but Jessica especially,
Yeah, it's funny because they're actually really fast movers. I actually think that when I looked at them, especially on beam, I could never tell. I mean, I saw obviously who I was looking at the beginning, because their name was placed up, but then I would forget who I was looking at, and then I would forget who I just saw as I walked away. So I couldn't tell you which one, but I do find that they do move very quickly, and they're like little firecrackers, but super powerful with elegance. And I think, yes, once they get really mature and seasoned in this, they're going to be ones to watch for sure. Italian girls looked great. Even the Amato twins were super interesting to watch. And our really tall Belgian, her bars was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Derwael.
Now, do her flexed feet bother you?
Yes.
Me too.
Drive me bananas. Anyone's flexed feet bother me.
No.
Flexed feet, bent knees, legs that are apart. If you ever want me to watch gymnastics, fix those three, and then I'll turn the TV on. So generally that would make me turn it off.
So it looks like it's going to be Nina against Suni for the bar gold, but the Russians are certainly in it for the medals. Suni, what did you make of her? I thought the interesting thing to me about her all around is that all year, the last couple of years when she's vaulted, it looks like she's almost going to get hurt every single time. And she had a bad ankle injury, and she did the best vault of her life in the all around. And every single event, she was a little off and would correct. And she was way off sometimes on bars and was able to correct.
I know her bars, when she was off, I was like, how did she's like go gadget with like pulling herself back and back into spot. Super impressive. I actually quite like her. I wish the code of points allowed, because I think there's an artist in there. I think she's got artistry and elegance and grace, but the code of points doesn't let it be the thing that is the grabbing aspect of her. And I think it feels very behind the scenes, simply because that she's achieving all of these huge skills with this open-ended scoring. It's almost like she needs to do a floor routine that's 2 minutes long. So it could be like full power, full tumbling, all this grace, and then we can see her be an artist.
Now everyone's wondering, will she go to college? Will she be able to do both, to cash in? I mean, the rules are different than they.
I mean, I just saw this article. I didn't actually read it, but it did say now you can probably do both. And I'm like, well, how did that happen? I don't know. How did that happen? So I haven't read it. I think it's a new thing. There's apparently some rule that has come up.
That's the rule. You can make money now in college.
Oh,
yes. So all the girls that go viral, they're all like TikTok stars. Oh, yes. And think about the problems on the team when they're all fighting over who's the most famous. It'll be great, Stella. Well, I mean.
wait, seriously? Wait, can you still get a full scholarship?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, the universities were making money off of you all for years. So.
Oh yeah, of course. Like I knew that I was like fully there to do a job. Like 100%. I wasn't delusional on that. My brain, my body, everything I was offering was worth $120,000. And so let's go and pay back my $120,000 with my mind, body, and soul. I completely understood that. But wow, that's wow, I'm sorry. I just, okay, so that's new news for me. So I'm just going to let that process and let that land and see. I don't know what that's going to do. It's going to just, there's just all this. I just find like TikTok and viral. It's just so distracting. There's just so many distractions. So, but I guess that's, I'm so old. I sound so old as I say that.
Well, okay, you're old school. So what's your opinion on team selection? Because Tom Forster went 1, 2, 3, 4 at the trials, but that wasn't the highest scoring team if you look at all of the algorithms, and people were upset and criticized him for it. And he said, we have Simone, it's not going to come down to tenths. You could say it's USA arrogance, right? And it wound up not coming down to tenths because they lost by 3.5 points. Now, his wife posted a big thing because the press was very critical of him after the qualifying when Russia beat the United States. And they were asking about who was on the team and challenging him on some of his statements. And then he didn't talk to the press after the team final, but his wife did write a long post about how everyone is too mean to him. Do you think he's just like not cut out for this? Like, what is your take on this whole thing? And should the team be just 1, 2, 3, 4?
You mean in the, okay, so the American, again, I'm Canadian. I know I keep popping that in, I preface it. I don't think it works like that. Of course, this was like, I'm from 100 years ago. So I can't fully say, but I feel like it doesn't necessarily work like that in every program. I feel like if you place 1, 2, 3, 4, that's who should be on the team. Like does that make sense? That's not what happened though?
In America it is, but it wasn't necessarily stated ahead of time that that's what he was going to do. It was the fear of people because, you know, we've been through the Caroli, so we are all about like the algorithm and the math system and the spreadsheets and formulating like who's going to be on your team. Like it's.
Can't you just have a trials and whoever places 1, 2, 3, 4 goes to the meet? Wouldn't that just be easier than making it a mathematical equation? These are people we're talking about.
All right.
Wait, you're cutting out. No, say that again.
Burden you like appreciate the strategy here.
Oh wait, so you cut out. So you need to say it again. All I saw was beautiful facial expressions and no words. So
I was saying that like the strategy is like who's going to be your person because you know you can sit someone on each event. So and then like can you trust the judges in the U.S. to not overscore all of our own athletes?
I mean, I definitely think I wrote it down here, Sammy. I definitely think it's right here, Sue. Yeah, putting up your top people on each event is the smart way to go, and because that's what we do in university, right? So you have your team. It's actually NCAA. So let me think of it like that. So you have your team of all-arounders, and your coaches will put the lineup of your strongest 6, your strongest 4, your strongest 3. It makes complete sense that you arrange it like that. And I'm pretty sure every team would probably.
Yeah, and there's some strategy they pick because of that. So
there is a strategy as who you pick, but it's based on algorithms as opposed to placement at trials.
Yes.
So yeah, I have an issue with that because I mean, trials are trials. You try out, you prove your mojo, and the award is that you make the team. But now on the team, you got to do that again, because obviously if at trials you're the number one competitor, number 1, 2, and 3, then you should be entitled to compete that event that you've 1, 2, 3 on. Mind you though, I got caught up in the opposite happening, and that's why I missed out at 1993 Worlds. But the other side of the story is it's a good thing that I missed out of that world. I was really injured. My ankle was a mess. And it was the very first time that they had individual worlds and world event finals at the same time. So you could send a specialist and you could send an all-arounder. I had placed 4th at trials, but I won 3 out of 4 events. But they didn't send me. So they didn't send their top scorer on 3 out of 4 events because I placed 4th. And it was only top 3 that went. But it had nothing to do with an algorithm. If it was an algorithm, if it was based on history, and I should have definitely gone, because I'd proven up until this point that I was the top scorer and the top athlete, but it was based on trials. I didn't place in the top 3. I didn't go. End of story. It makes it more clear. You what, sorry?
How long were you salty about it for?
I mean, I was a mess, David. I was really sad that I didn't make the team, but I could barely walk. So I was thankful. I was really grateful. My coach even went out and he was like, you guys, she's your number one gymnast. Like they're like, no, we're not taking any petitions. It's not happening. No. He was upset. I was upset for half a minute, but then I realized it would have been a disaster if I went, because I was so injured. So it was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah, there's all this stuff about the +1s and who the +1 is going to be and why isn't our +1 on the team. I mean, people have a lot of
see, I think it's crazy. Now that everything's sort of like working its way out and clarity is coming to the situation, you have your MyKayla Skinner, who worked her tail off, like every athlete worked their tails off, but that kid was like so determined. She was ready. She was fired. And she wasn't on the team, which is distressing, because I, in my opinion, think she should have been on that 4-person team and not have been competing for an all-around spot against her teammate, which was just so weird that these two were now being pitted against each other for the exact same thing. I believe that she should have been on that team, and it's not going to be.
She would have been. So if you went by the algorithm of the highest scoring team, she would have been on the scoring team. Even if 5th to trials, Grace McCallum was 4th, she would have been flipped. The one thing there is I think she offered more leadership, because Simone is a superstar, right? So Simone can't necessarily be the one to worry about the younger ones when she has to go viral every 5 seconds of her life, right? But someone like Skinner, who was a leader of her NCAA team, could have had that leadership role for the team.
I think that was a misstep.
And Miller and Dominic Dawes were not the leaders of the '96 team. It was Amanda.
Exactly.
She was exactly there. The other ones, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that if they missed an opportunity, and it's heartbreaking for Skinner because she really worked her tail off to get there, and she would have been. Okay, what I'm going to say is not popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. Simone Biles is a standard all on her own. Mm-hmm. They obviously did not need Simone Biles to win a medal. Mm-hmm. They could have put any team up, and if everybody hit, they would have won a medal. It might not have been gold, but they would have won a medal. I would have reserved Simone Biles as an all-arounder and put Skinner on the team.
Why?
If you want to win every event, you put your strongest all-arounder in all-around. If you know that you can put up a team that will still be on the podium, that's who you compete.
But in the US, we're fixated on team gold.
Well, how'd that work out for them? So now they don't have an all-arounder. They don't have a team gold. And now the GOAT is scratched 2 out of 4 events.
Comment section of this video is just about to explode, Stella, with like, oh my God, they're gonna say that you don't know anything about gymnastics, that you were in the Olympics. It's okay, I'm just warning you. They'll be like, who is she? Okay.
Who is she? I just think that it depends on what you want. It depends on what you want. You also have a young woman who 100% was saying that she wanted to quit. You have a young woman that rather than putting the team gold on her shoulders, you share out the responsibility amongst your program. You are saying basically, we cannot win a gold with the program that we have put up. She is not the only person on that team. And as a team, you work together as a team. If you want to save your best in the situation that she's in right now, I would have just saved her for all around.
Interesting. You're the only person I've heard say that, so you stand in your truth. Okay, that is.
I mean, but
interesting opinion.
Because we knew that, but we also know that she can win anything. She can win and fall at the same time. She can still win and fall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do think that the Russian team, as a team, had a better cohesion. Now they lived together, they trained together, more similar to college, right? And I think that we saw it on the floor. Oddly, the U.S. team seemed to become more cohesive when they had to be, when Simone withdrew, because they were forced to come together and they were put in a situation where they couldn't rely on Simone anymore.
Exactly.
Her superstar status, as you were saying, how it took the oxygen away from meets, I think it took oxygen away from this team. Whereas in
exactly,
they were like a dream team all coming together. So.
Exactly. And we were able to see what the other girls, the medal of the other girls. Mm-hmm. And still, I'm not saying that shouldn't have gone, mm-hmm. but in the situation that she was in her mind, body, and soul of not wanting to be there, that's when you save your best athlete. In my opinion, you don't make them constantly compete. Go again, do it again, compete more, when the last thing she wants to do is compete.
I mean, I do think it's disturbing. Like, I think that a lot of friends and people have had so many, emotional reactions to what happened with Simone, but it almost reminds me of our Olympic movement. It's almost like a military complex in the US. Like, well, of course, what you just said about putting Simone for the all around to have a team, not winning the team gold is like anathema to everyone.
I know.
Right? Like you just caused an explosion. But I think what happened to someone's mental health and pressure and seeing what happened does throw things into question where is this all insane? Like what?
Yeah, but why is there a feeling that they could not have won that team gold without her?
I don't think that the team has had the consistency that they've had before over the last year.
Oh no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But basically you are putting every single hope and dream on one person. It is a team event.
Yes.
You need to put 4 strong people up.
I don't believe that our staff prepared the team in that way.
To be a team. It was just it was like her backup singers. Like Diana Ross, it was like the Supremes, right? That's not what the team event is.
In the US, we were fed that any team was going to win. Any team. But it was any team with Simone, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And the other gymnasts, very deep, although, we had COVID and we had, of course, we had one coach have a camp right before trials to invite everyone, let's cash in. And then, his athlete got COVID, right at the Olympics. So that was, a little bit of.
There's that. I feel like I could be wrong because I didn't see absolutely everything. Did Vanessa Ferrari, how much of the team did she compete?
We can look this up, but she did compete, yes. You know what? We're going to say that she competed. And
is she their top athlete? Was she Italy's top athlete?
Supposed to be their +1. Someone got injured and she was subbed in. But
so it was later.
Yes, but before she was obviously their best athlete. So she was not expected to be their top here.
Okay, so she wasn't expected to be their top.
Yes, correct. She was more of a
and the only reason I was asking is just because she's a huge name in Italian gymnastics and I barely saw her compete, but now you've clarified that for me.
There was a lot going on. I don't remember Ferrari. You really threw me. She did.
Sorry.
Did 3 out of the 4 events.
Oh, she did do 3 out of 4.
Nailed floor. Vault, she got a 14.167. She didn't do bars. 12.5 unbeaten. So
Okay. All right. So she must have fallen on B. Did she fall on B? I think she might have fallen.
She might have fallen on B.
So like when I think of NCAA, coaches don't necessarily make the most popular choices, but it looks unpopular to the people outside, but they are doing what is best for their numbers. And yes, 100% Simone is obviously always going to be best for your numbers if she's in the best shape of her life, if she wants to be there. There's no denying Simone is not mentally, like mind, body, and soul in the best shape of her life right now. So you don't want to put inconsistency up on a regular basis. It's tough on a team. It is tough on a team when not everybody is on the same page. And to put the entire responsibility of winning a team medal on one person is not team. That's individual. Unpopular, I know. I mean, I don't, because I guess it's because I come from the world of like winning at all costs is not a thing. I don't think that people should just be ridden under the bus and like thrown behind and like, who really gives a shit how you are? You must win that. I'm not from that school.
Okay.
Yep, I said it.
You said it.
I think you can be a champion and healthy all at the same time.
Incredible. Incredible. I think that was your mic drop moment, and I think someone is ready to grab you. So hopefully we'll chat again after the event finals, Stella, because
no, I think she's just hanging out.
Oh.
Are you just hanging out? Are you just lurking? This is Billy. Everybody say hi.
Billy, who's a model in Australia. So.
She is. You say thank you. What do you want? I'm in the middle of something. Okay.
Well, we're going to go let you be a mom. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. No problem.
We'll chat soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.